Test it. Okay. If you could find your seats, please, I'd be appreciative. You have to, yeah, you find your name tag.
Make sure it's me.
Right. It should be on television. You guys are very good. Everybody find your seats, please. Well, somebody... We're waiting for... Dr. Mills is working his way to the head table here. Okay. Well, just before we start, I have to tell you, somebody had a brilliant comment. Came up to the rostrum a few minutes ago and said, you know, Tiger Bay could make a lot of money by moving its meetings to drought-stricken areas. And that was a great point because we've had so many rainy Tiger Bay meetings. Thank you all very much for coming out on this rainy day, and I hope the sun is shining by the time we leave. So I'm Judy Sedgman. I'm president of Tiger Bay. I'd like to welcome you all here, as usual, saying hello, Tiger Bay. Hello. And before we get started with today's program, I'd ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, we have a great turnout today, given that it's midsummer, for a topic of extraordinary interest to everybody who lives and works and plays in Manatee County, because it really matters how our school system is doing. And I'm very pleased to say we have the three most important areas of the school system represented today, with our superintendent and with the deputy superintendent for operations and the deputy superintendent of instruction. So I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers. I'm just going to tell you that we're going to do it as we usually do. I don't go into a lot of introductions because you've all had a chance to look it up online. Just click the little links. And it's important for the speakers to take up the program, not me. But I do want to say it's about time that we did this program, and I'm hoping for really good questions. Listen carefully. And hopefully we'll have a really constructive discussion. And the program will start with Dr. Rick Mills, who is our superintendent. He's going to present first, and then he'll turn it over. I'm not going to stand up again. He'll turn it over to Don Hall, who's the deputy superintendent for operations, and Don will turn it over to Dr. Diana Green, who is the deputy superintendent for curriculum instruction. So after they speak, and you know me, I run my little phone and it dings, and hopefully appropriately dings. After they've had a chance to speak, then we'll start the questions. So thanks for your attention. Enjoy your lunch and the talks. So we'll start with Dr. Mills.
Well, thank you, Judy. Just for the record, I'm not a doctor, so.
Oh, sorry.
That's quite all right.
I live in the academic world almost.
Well, it's always great to get out and share with the community and different events and venues, the great things that are going on in our school district, and to enlighten folks who are interested, as all of you are today, for being here, on the many good things that are happening and the direction that the school district is going. And I will say that at this point, after 16 months as superintendent, and I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to serve as a superintendent, that I am very, very pleased at what we've accomplished in the last 16 months. But when I come out to the venues and I speak, I talk about the many challenges that we have faced and we continue to face, and I put it in the context, and many of you may have heard me speak before, that it's rebuilding a plane as you fly it. So this time, I'm going to give you a special opportunity to visualize that a little bit And it's a production that we did. It's a one-minute video. If you can't see it, just please make sure you can see the screen over here. But I want to help you visualize this as we go. And it's not Academy Award winning quality, but it's a good job that the team did, and I think you'll enjoy it. So if we could go ahead and start the video, and make sure you could see the screen, please.
Some people like to climb mountains. I like to build planes in the air. These people back here, that's why I come to work. That's why I build airplanes in the sky.
We're not just building a plane here. We're building a dream.
I love this job.
I do a lot of things up here. When I look over there and I see that little kid, the look in his eyes, that's all the thanks I need.
All right, I hope that starts us off on a good note. So I'm a voracious reader of leadership books, management books, and books on education, and I will share with you that two books that have really influenced my leadership style and approach to transforming organizations to greatness are the books Good to Great. Many of you probably read that. And Collins has come out with a new one, Good to Great for social sectors that now transcend into the social sector organizations. The other book is The 5 Principles of Performance Management. And I've adopted both to use it as an approach, kind of that secret sauce approach of how do you change an organization and move it to greatness. And so this past year, I've spent a lot of time with our principals and our leaders in the district, taking them through a couple of processes. One, I shared several clips from the movie Moneyball that talked about how to use data and how do you use information to make decisions around performance and outcomes. And it was a great movie, a great book that I've read. And I shared it with the principals, and they saw the value in how do you take that approach to educational leadership and making decisions around instruction and teaching in the classrooms. And so I shared that with them, and then I took them through the book Good to Great. And we extensively went through every concept, and I'll share many of them today with you. But at the end of the year, I kind of capsulized with the principals everything that we've been doing this year and how it comes together with what I shared with them out of this book. And so let's just share a little bit about the book if you're not familiar with it. Jim Collins wrote the book in 2001, and he did a specific study on 28 companies that were high-performing companies over a sustained period of time. And he got together with what did they do as the recipe for success in achieving greatness. And so everything that we've done in the last 16 months has been around these fundamental concepts, and I'll share them and walk you through them. The first thing you have to do is you have to hire level 5 leaders. Collins says level 5 leaders are the highest level in the performance of leaders, and I firmly believe that we've gone out and recruited and hired several level 5 leaders in the school district. 2 are sitting here to my left, and it's very important because level 5 leaders lead through humility and through professional will. And they also lead with a relentless pursuit for excellence. And I see that in both Dawn and Diane and myself as an attribute that we commonly share. And more importantly, your level 5 leaders are the ones who are going to develop your level 3 and 4 leaders into level 5 leaders. So I want to share a quote out of it because I think it really captures in the book. Level 5 leadership is not about being soft or nice or purely inclusive or consensus building. The whole point of level 5 leadership is to make sure right decisions happen, no matter how difficult or painful, for the long-term greatness of the institution and to achieve its mission independent of consensus and popularity. Collins goes on in the second concept that we've applied, and I've already mentioned how we've gone out and recruited several level 5 leaders to lead this transformation and change. He says you got to have the first who and then the what. So he says you have to get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus per se, and then you figure out where you're driving it. So it's the who before the what. He says that people aren't your most important asset in your organization. He says the right people are. And I firmly believe that you have to have the right people in the right leadership roles in order to achieve that greatness. So over the past year, we've been realigning, repurposing, moving people around within the organization. We've been hiring people from the outside of the organization, all in the name of getting the who right and the right people in the right seats of the bus. And on our senior leadership team meeting today, I sat and looked around, and we have about 25, 30 leaders in the room every other Thursday as we go through our leadership team meeting. And I saw a blend of great leaders in there from the outside coming into the district, from those that have been there for years and those that have been promoted. And I could tell you unequivocally that everyone in that room, I felt very confident were the right people in those positions and doing the right things to help us move forward. So that's the first, the who, and then the what. And the what is your vision, what is your plan, and how are you going to move forward to greatness? And I'll share more about that in a minute. The third concept that Collins talks about is you have to confront the brutal facts and the challenges that exist in your organization, and yet never lose faith. You have to have unwavering faith that you're going to achieve the greatness that you desire and the outcomes of being a great organization. And to move forward, you have to identify what he calls the brutal facts and the challenges. You have to get them out in the open, you have to deal with them, correct them, and move on. And we've done a lot of that in the last year, and I'm happy to say that we're seeing less and less of that and getting more around the initiatives that we need to move forward around our strategic plan. But again, you have to have unwavering faith that what you're doing around these challenges is going to prevail, and that you will build the discipline to confront those facts and challenges and move forward to greatness. The fourth concept he talks about is the hedgehog concept, and I find this the most enlightening and kind of interesting. He shares a little vignette in his book about the hedgehog versus the fox, and how the fox tries about 1,000 different ways to take the hedgehog out, and basically for food. So the hedgehog does one thing that it does really well, and that's roll up in a ball and let the spines on its back protect itself from the fox. And yet the fox tries 100 different ways to be successful and isn't. Well, what he's saying here is that as you as an organization, us as a school district, we need to stick with what we do best and focus on that and get really good at doing what we do best. And for a school district, I see that in 2 areas. What are you doing in your schools to deliver high quality, effective instruction in your classrooms? And what do you put in processes in place to enable success around that, to empower your schools to achieve that outcome? And the other one is, how do you focus your effort as a school district to do what you need to do for your schools to be successful in your support of them? And what is that you do best in accomplishing that? The fifth concept he talks about is building a culture of discipline. And when you have the right people in the right seats of the bus, then you have disciplined people who don't need to operate in a hierarchy, who don't need a bureaucracy to operate within, and don't need excessive controls to be successful. You empower them, you put systems and structures in place, you empower them with decision making in an ethical environment, you give them expectations, and you basically turn them loose to be successful. And I found that very successful right now, that the team we have in place, that they're very much empowered in decision making, in action, in initiative, to do the right things that we need to achieve that greatness. The sixth concept that he talks about is technology accelerators, and I will tell you from my experience in almost 25 years in the military gets this done very well. They use technology exponentially in training and utilization of education, and they're about 20 years ahead in education. And so we need to get there as a school district, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing around that. But you take technology and you use it strategically in its application to leverage exponentially your outcomes. That means in the classrooms, it means in the school district, it means in our departments. How are we using technology for greater outcomes? The seventh concept he talks about is the flywheel and the doom loop. And that is the transformation to greatness is a process that resembles a relentlessly pushing a large flywheel in one direction, turn by turn, step by step, to eventually build momentum in your organization until you get through the breakthrough point and beyond. And so I liken it to when you transform an organization and you affect change, you have basically 4 phases to that change. You got the first phase, which is the honeymoon phase, which is everyone's excited about change and the energy and what's going on and the vision, etc. Then you move into phase 2, which is the OMG phase. And the OMG phase is where people start to realize, you mean change is going to affect me? Kind of a mindset. And in reality, that does settle in. As you affect change, people start being impacted by that, and then you start getting naturally pushback from within the organization. The third phase is the Chuck Yeager phase. And the Chuck Yeager phase is where you keep the throttle down and accelerated through the shakes and the bumps and the vibrations to do that breakthrough that you achieve in the fourth phase. And that is building momentum by breaking through in the transformation of change. So our goal in rolling out Good to Great and his new book about the social sectors is all about building a great school district with great outcomes that provides a high-quality education for our students and our parents to choose from, but more importantly, to build an organization that's built to last, a great school district that lasts. So I mentioned how Collins had taken this now to the second level and integrating it into the social sectors. And its principles remain the same except for one thing, and that is how do you define the greatness that you're looking for in a social sector organization, and how do you measure and calibrate those successes? It's easy to do in the business world when you look at revenue and income and profit margins. It's not so easy to do when you get into the public sector organizations. So he basically says, when you're a public sector organization, you need to look at how you deliver on your mission and make a distinctive impact relative to the utilization of your resources and not the profits. He gave a good example of this, and I'll share this with you. He talked about in 1995 that an anonymous person put on the bulletin board in the New York Police Department bulletin board in their main building, and it said, "We're not report takers, we're the police." And what was meant in that is that at the time, the New York City Police were measuring a bunch of input data that frustrated a lot of people within the department and police officers and district precincts, et cetera, and they weren't translating that into law enforcement that produced outcomes. So he talks about in the book of how do you take your data that's inputs, translate it into outputs, and what strategies you need to accomplish that for outputs. So that for us in education is taking data like attendance, et cetera, freshman on track metrics, dropout rates. How do we translate that into outputs that produce the kind of quantifiable data that we're looking for outcomes? And what does that look like? And then what are the strategies that you need to implement to do that? So I'm going to briefly review what Palladino says about the 5 principles of performance management, because I found a way to adapt it and modify it and customize it to education. And the first thing I want to say around that, the first principle is you have to be strategically aligned among your organization, both horizontally and vertically, all the way throughout your organization. So we've been able to get a good start in doing this by getting the board recently to publish our new district strategic plan that has quantifiable measures of performance in here so that we can measure whether or not we're achieving our desired outcomes. And so now that we have this plan in place, we will start to write subsequent plans both horizontally and eventually vertically down to the school level so that we're strategically aligned across the entire organization down to every school, and that we're focused on the same mission, vision, and priorities and the same goals. So I'm very, very pleased about this. We accomplished the writing of this in about 9 months. In most school districts, it takes usually 18 to 24 months to write a strategic plan. And I really believe that this will be a national exemplar strategic plan for school districts. The second component or principle is how do you utilize data to measure your performance? I mentioned inputs but you want to get the outputs, and what are those strategies that drive you to outputs. On Monday, we will start our data team training for all our school teams, so that at the end of the training, at the end of the month, we will have 53 data teams trained in all our schools. They'll be certified through the curriculum and the trainer, and they'll get a certificate from me. So we will know as a school district that we have 53 schools that have data teams that are trained at the same level across all schools. We will also do the data training for our departments in our central office team, so that we have capacity of how we're using data and analyzing it to make decisions to drive those outcomes. The third item is we need to take this district's strategic plan and we need to align our budgets to it. So we're using this document now in our budget process to align all our dollars in our district budget to make sure that whatever we're doing as a school district is in here and we're not doing anything outside the parameters of our plan. That will transcend down as we write each plan horizontally and vertically to the alignment eventually of schools aligning their budgets to their strategic plans. So the ultimate goal is all the resources in terms of dollars in the district are completely aligned to say what we're going to do in the next 5 years, and this is how we're going to resource it. It also gives us the ability to identify where our shortfalls are and how do we use foundations and grants and other in-kind organizations to fill those gaps. It also gives us the ability to identify our professional development as a school district down to the school level, the professional development we need to do 12 to 18 months out. Instead of this kind of shoot from the hip, this is professional development we need to do this month. I'm just about done. The fourth thing we need to do, and we'll implement a performance management system to measure how well are we executing what's in the plan. Are we implementing it? Are we implementing it to fidelity? And how well are we doing around the goals and the KPIs, the key performance indicators, to make sure that we're accomplishing what we said we're going to do and we're seeing success around that. And then the last thing we're going to do is leveraging technology. And what you saw in the video, we purchased almost 6,200 new computers to be rolled out to all the schools. We've implemented Microsoft Office 365. We're looking for a new system that interfaces between HR, IT, and our budget and finance. So we're implementing technology, and that's all in here around goal number 6. So all those resources to support that are already in the plan. So I'm going to finish by saying that as we continue to rebuild the plane as we're flying it, I'm very, very pleased with the progress. And I've asked Diana and Don to come in here and share many of the successes we've seen academically and in the business operations side that I think when you leave here, you'll be very proud of, that we're at a good place and we're moving forward and we've turned the corner and we're on our path to greatness as a school district. So I'm going to turn it over to Don.
Well, good afternoon. It is an honor to be with you all. And on the way up, I rode with the superintendent and I told him, I said, now, I've tried to make the presentation today and the points I highlight different than what I think you're going to say. He still accomplished the fact that he covered my points. So either we're in really good synergy or we're not doing enough, one of the two. And I can't tell what it is because I can tell you from as tired as I am, it sure feels like there's a lot. As the Deputy Superintendent for Business and Operations, most of the time people think of us as the buses, bricks, and budget people. That's how we're known. Well, I came from an academic background, so it gives me a different perspective on how we approach the business operations aspect of the district. And this year we set 3 focus goals. This long before there was a strategic plan. I had to have a way to help everyone in the division to see through a common lens how we were going to provide services. The first of those was that we're going to provide customer support and satisfaction that exceeds their expectations. It's not enough to meet it. You should go beyond. The second one is, how are we going to support the delivery of quality instruction? Because we are about that. And third, how do we create a climate of trust, respect, and collaboration? When an organization's been through very difficult times, those are some of the things that are lost in that transition. So we know we have to rebuild those as well, with the team as well as outside the community as in addition. So as I looked at what are some of the things we've accomplished this year, most people know the financial situation, and that's what they talk about every time I go anywhere. How are we? Where are we? What's going on? Well, last year we started the year with $8.6 million in a deficit. So when I got here, that was the first gift they handed me. So going from there, this year we were able to raise almost $17 million, which took us to an 8.2 positive fund balance. Then the Attorney General comes along and hands us our second gift, findings from the previous 4 years, which equates to almost $8 million. So they took away the rest of the savings. So we're still working and managing the budget even up to this day, and we're anticipating finishing this year with about $1 million surplus. So no matter how you look at that, that is a tremendous step forward for us as a school district and for us as a community that's concerned about our schools. We're nearing the completion of hiring a new CFO. One of the concerns that I heard was, who was responsible for all of this and how did we get there? Well, I didn't spend my time focusing on that. I spent my time finding who are the right people that need to lead it. So we replaced every single leadership position in business services. And it's, again, the goal is to have the best possible people running it. And many of these candidates came from other places, and they're bringing good new ideas with them. You've already heard about the other pieces in technology, so I'm not going to cover those. In addition to that, our transportation department. We run one of the largest transportation fleets in this region. And a lot of people do not realize, but when you run over 260 buses, that becomes a very complex endeavor. This year, though, we were able to reduce overtime costs by 17% by changing our routing processes and looking at the best way to manage field trips. We generated $186,000 in savings in vehicle maintenance operations. Again, by looking at how do we get to parts, the timing of getting those parts, and the best way to get the parts. Food and nutrition services. We implemented a new mobile app this year called NutriSlice. And you can, on your mobile device, telephone, iPad, whatever, you can actually look at not only the menu that your child's having, or grandchild, but you can look at the nutrition content. And so you are able to follow, what are they being fed and how nutritious is it as we continue to try to strive to meet the guidelines of the federal government regulations. We expanded our food service program by providing food county-wide using a mobile feeding bus. We took one of our old school buses, we transformed it into a moving cafe. And so during the summer, it goes out into some of our more disadvantaged communities, and it provides a daily meal for those students. Because we know when they come to school, that's often the only meal they'll get. So we are really worried about making sure we're meeting their needs during the summertime as well. So you may see the lunch bus moving around the community. It's brightly colored, you can't miss it. So hopefully you will have a chance to see that. In addition, we expanded the number of dinner programs that we provide in schools. We had to expand some of the services academically, so we believed in order to do that successfully, you still have to meet the physical needs of the students. And one of the ways to do that is by providing a dinner for them as well. So that's another big cultural change for us. This past year, we also, for our fund balance, were able to sell about $4 million in property. And that's always a tough thing because it is an asset. It's a one-time kind of asset, but you're also working through, hopefully, a one-time financial situation. This year in maintenance and operations, they completed over 26,000 work orders. And the part that's most amazing about that is not the number of work orders. It's the fact that our customers gave them exceptionally high marks for customer satisfaction. We have a report card that we put out every quarter. Every single department in the Division of Operations gets a grade from our schools. And we monitor that grade very carefully. And we're using that to drive our benchmarks for performance. As Mr. Mills has already shared, we did get out the strategic plan this year, and we have already started initiating the school data teams, and they begin training next week. So while the finance is the most visible part of what operations is about, it is by far from the only part. And our goal is to be one of the most efficient, effective, student-focused operational divisions in not only the state, but in this country. And we appreciate the support of our community as we've tried to move through this. We'll continue to doing a lot of other changes. And with the new budget coming for this year, we're still working through the final development on that. But one of the things that I think is important to know, that if we manage the budget the way we managed it this year, we will end the year with a $12.5 million surplus, which will meet our state fund reserve for the first time in 4 years. And so, barring any gifts from the state, we anticipate finishing in a very positive situation. And when you do that, that gives you the freedom then to enact more focus and more resource into your core mission, teaching students. And that's what we're about. So thank you as we continue to work through this together, and we will keep you apprised as we move forward. And I want to turn the podium over to Dr. Diana Green, my partner.
Good afternoon. It's so great that they saved the best for last. It's all about what we do for our children. We serve over 46,000 students here in Manatee County Public Schools. And I've been very fortunate to have an amazing team, which the bulk of my team was already a part of Manatee County Public Schools. So it is definitely an honor for me to provide that leadership to a group of people who were already committed to the children of Manatee, and they have embraced our new philosophy. They've embraced the changes that have come about, and we've had a very minimized OMG because our principals and teachers, although we have gone through a very challenging school year, and you just heard Mr. Hall talk about the issues with the budget, they stayed the course. They kept the faith and moved forward, and so much so that for the first time in over 10 years, in several categories, we are above the state average as it relates to FCAT scores. Thank you. Our elementary writing was above the state average. Elementary math and middle school math was above the state average. And for the first time, high school students took American history end of course exams, and Manatee County was well above the state average, and 8th grade science was above the state average. We are very proud of what our schools have accomplished. This required, as I stated, a strong commitment from our principals down to our teachers and our support staff. And as it relates to education, we know that it's more than test scores. For a child to be truly successful, it requires us to service them the whole child. So I am very excited that this year we did not have to cut any of our enrichment courses. We will have music, art, physical education in all of our schools. This year, for the first time in a long time, every school will have a media specialist that will be the leader in digital content, as literacy is a gateway to everything else that our students are required to do. As far as working with our students with mental health and behavior issues, for the first time, we will have student support specialists at every one of our schools, and at the high school, we will have girls and boys deans at every high school. So we are providing that support not only for the classroom, but making sure our students have access to that frontline intervention. And part of that is also expanding our relationships and partnerships with outside communities. So our student support specialists will be a part of that child study team to look at how we can be more proactive in dealing with student behavior, identifying those possible triggers that we need to raise the level, go to our mental health professionals, working with our school psychologists and our social workers to provide benefits for our students. So we are truly excited that we are able, through the help of Mr. Hall's efforts, to now expand those services to our students. Many of you know that the Common Core is here. Next year, which is next year is here for us, July 1st, we will be implementing Florida standards for language arts and mathematics. We have ensured that all of our schools will have the latest resources. We just completed our purchase for new literacy books for all of our schools, K-5 and middle schools, so that we have textbooks that will be aligned to Florida standards. We have prepared for training throughout the year so that teachers will have support in implementing all of these new materials. We, by statute, must begin performance pay this year for teachers as well as principals and assistant principals, and we will be bringing that through a work session with our board on July 22nd for our principals and assistant principals to start that implementation. Mr. Mills and Mr. Hall have both talked about the data teams. Our executive directors will be collaborating with our data teams at each of the schools in providing support so that we can use the data, whether it is demographic data, what we call soft data, or academic data, use that information to make decisions, and those decisions eventually have an impact on student performance. One of the topics that I know that's been talked at Tiger Bay in the past is early learning. We are excited that we are expanding our pre-K. We are now adding Title I pre-K. We have 3 different types of pre-K programs. We have the state through the Coalition Voluntary Pre-K program. We have what we call integrated pre-K. That is a program where we have inclusion of students that have disabilities, and they are included in with general ed pre-kindergartners. And now we have Title I pre-K. We enter over 3,000 kindergartners. And currently, we are only serving about 500 through early education programs. And with adding Title I pre-K, that's now going to increase to over 700 students that we will have an opportunity to impact before they start kindergarten. Now, I've talked about all the great things that we are implementing and the great progress, but I believe that we also have to talk about we still have many challenges. We still have areas that we need to improve. We still have too many students coming to us in kindergarten still not ready to learn. We've got to continue to expand. We have to work with our private provider partners to make sure that we're all on the same page, providing the same objectives and goals so that all of our children coming into kindergarten will be ready. We still have an issue with retention. We have a large number of students who will be retained by state statute in 3rd grade. And why is that a problem? We looked at our students who dropped out this past year, which there are hundreds, and over 80% of them were retained sometime in their school life. So retention, dropout, they're kind of synonymous. And how are we going to deal with that issue? Because again, the issue is not just moving them forward. If we're going to move them forward, then we have to provide the support and resources for them to be successful at that next grade level. And last but not least, our minority students are still lagging behind. Our ESOL population is growing exponentially, and we continue to have to provide services and ways that we can reach out to our Hispanic community as well as our Hispanic Latino students and providing those services. One, ensuring that they mastered the English language. Two, can they master now writing using the English language? And three, we're helping them to be successful on our state exams, because if they're not, one, they're going to be retained in third grade. Two, they cannot graduate high school. Three, we're continuing to add to our dropout rate. And our dropout rate has a negative impact on our economic community. And so we need you. We need you as a community. I am pleased and excited to be working with Phil Brown, the executive director of the United Way, on an initiative called Grade Level Reading. And I'm sure that initiative will come to Tiger Bay, hopefully at some date in the future, and how we as a community can get on board to ensure that Manatee County public school students can be in the top 10% of students in this nation, but it will not happen just through the school system. We need our community, we need our parents, and we need our faith-based organizations. We need to come together to rally around our students. I am truly excited about being here in Manatee County. I love this community. I love my principals and teachers because they have recognized that we can be better. We can do this. And so I implore you that if you are not participating in any activities related to the school system, that you find out what we have to offer. We have a program called Reading Pals, where community members come in and work with very young children with reading for simply an hour a week. We have, again, through United Way, the grade level reading initiative, and many other opportunities. If you call a school, I guarantee you they'll let you come in. And I guarantee you the children won't hurt you. They love having visitors. So I am indeed honored, and I'm pleased that you've allowed us to come speak, and thank you very much.
Well, Dr. Green, you get the gold star for ending exactly when the bell rang. People in education know how to do that. So just to let you know, members can ask questions. Please identify yourself and that you're a member of Tiger Bay. And please say if the question is directed to a specific person or the panel as a whole. And we'll start with Misty.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Misty Servia, and I am a member of Tiger Bay. Superintendent Mills, there are many who are saying that the Rod Frazier case and the fallout surrounding it has divided our community. And so I would like to hear from you and ask you, is there anything during that period that you have learned that you could share with us? And do you have a plan for bringing the community back together?
It's a very good question. We as a school district have obviously had our share of distractions and challenges, and it's very unfortunate what's happened in many situations throughout the school district, particularly around the question you're asking in any division. I have approached a leadership philosophy of a collaborative, united effort, that's the best way that will produce the outcomes that Dr. Green was talking about and achieve the desired outcome and results of what we need as a great organization. I will say that many of the challenges that we've faced as a school district in the past year basically took place before I came here. And it's unfortunate that those situations had to be dealt with accordingly. My heart goes out to the communities that have been involved in that, the staff and faculty, the leadership, and the community as a whole. It's been an unfortunate situation, and we need to come together, and we need to unite. And that's the message that I've been saying from day one, that together we can. And that's the message you'll see on my signature everywhere that I publish anything around. We have to come together. We have to unite as a community. We have to put aside what's happened in the past, and we have to find a way to collaborate and move forward as a team, united and together. And I've said that from day one. I will pitch it to the very end of hopefully a long career here, and that's how we will succeed. And I implore everyone to come together and help the healing process around that from those who had to deal with that situation or situations, and for us to come together and remove these issues that tend to have festered there and existed. We need to find a way to work together. We need to find a way to come together, and we need to unite for the betterment of our kids and our students in the classroom to provide a quality education.
Where's the questioners? This is our hot topic, too.
My name is Becky Kness. I'm a Tiger Bay Club member. I'm also the CEO of Just for Girls and Just for Girls Academy. I'm so pleased to hear about the collaboration. You mentioned resources in your strategic plan. I think the United Way agencies that are focused on before and after school educational services to help the students are a great resource. And you mentioned efficiency, and I know that transportation is a huge cost in the budget. And I'd like to know if you could elaborate more fully on some of the communication that has helped to develop efficiencies in transportation with charter schools and community organizations.
I think so. I think it's directed to you.
It's a Don question.
That's a Don question. You have to stand here because you're on television.
We'll just play merry-go-round.
That's what we do. We get up and down.
Well, thank you for the question. This year, we spent a lot of time and energy doing two things. One, looking at how the transportation department serves students today. And then two, how can it do it better tomorrow? And one of the things that came out of that discussion was our partners with the charter schools. And so there was conversation around potential strategies about interacting with them. Unfortunately, that conversation took a life of its own. And so we met with the charter school heads. We came out with a solution on what we felt everybody could live with. And ultimately, the board passed it. The charters all signed off on it. And we felt like that was a major win because it was a collaborative effort. Where we go in the future with the charters, I think will be an ongoing conversation with them because we want to be able to provide the kind of support for charter school students who are in reality are still Manatee County students. It doesn't matter what building they're in. And so we want to make sure we can provide the appropriate level of service for them while at the same time being able to ensure that we can afford to provide the service based on the resources the state does send us. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation, and it is going to be collaborative. We did that this year, and we will continue to do that moving forward.
Thank you. I think it's a great achievement, that kind of collaboration. Just for Girls has had a 24-year partnership with the district, and we've seen firsthand the benefits to the students with these public-private partnerships. My hat's off to this team for moving that agenda forward as well. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Oh, good. You can line up if you want to, for the sake of efficiency. Yeah.
For short ones.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Valerie Bliss, and I'm a Tiger Bay member. And first, I want to mention that Phil Collins, who wrote the book From Good to Great, is a Boys and Girls Club kid, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame of Boys and Girls Club. And that is also a leadership book we use. But that's not what my question is. You had a reference in there, the fox and the hedgehog. And my assumption is you're leaning towards taking the district from being like a fox and more like a hedgehog. And that being said, what steps are you planning on taking that same approach with your business partners, identifying those hedgehogs and eliminating some of those foxes and district-wide?
Very good question. We need to get back to doing what we do well and do best and refine that and get better at doing that. And what I found in my almost 14 years in education, that when you get back to the fundamentals and the basics, and you do that very well, you produce great outcomes with very little or no resources required to do that. And I've seen success around that now in 3 different organizations that I've been in education. I think Diana could answer this question best and capture it. I know she mentioned the United Way collaborative effort around the early learning, but I'd ask her to talk a little bit about the other partners that are a part of that and how we're using the hedgehog model and doing what we do best and target early learning to improve the outcomes of kindergarten students being ready, 3rd grade level reading at 3rd grade. And so, Diane, if you would just elaborate more about that partnership that captures the hedgehog here.
Just a little bit more about that. Our hedgehog theory is more getting everyone focused on the objectives. If our objective is to have children ready for kindergarten, then everyone needs to know, what is that? What does that look like? Do we need them all to know their alphabet, how to spell their name? And sharing that with our multiple partners. We don't have the luxury to turn people away. What we do have the luxury of is whoever we are able, who wants to come, who wants to provide support, is that we are aligned in what is the vision, what are the goals, what are the objectives, and how can you help us meet that. So we are excited about our expansion of pre-K, but we are not going to be able to serve 3,000 4-year-olds. We have to depend on the private providers to share and collaborate with us. And so part of what we're doing is working with the coalition. That's why Dr. Robin Thompson sits on the coalition board, so that we can go back and forth and share what needs to happen, so that when our children enter kindergarten, they are going to be ready. And it will take mom and pop daycare programs as well as large business programs to support one another. But our hedgehog view as it relates to that is that we are aligning everything in one direction so that everyone knows what is the end goal.
And I'd just like to add to what Dr. Green said. At the table around this initiative was Manatee County Schools, the United Way, the Early Learning Coalition, and Manatee County. And am I missing anybody? No. So this is a coalition effort around this great initiative that we are using our partners, our other organizations here. I've been promoting collaborative effort among the organizations here from day one. You have to increase your capacity by using all opportunities and resources. And when you increase capacity in a school district, you just increased shared accountability.
Without getting metaphorical, I would like to point out that the sun is out.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Pat Benson, member, also chair of the Democratic Party. I truly would like to thank the team for turning this county around in the area of education. I know there's a big to-do with Manatee High School, but my question is, why are there coaches in any school in this state that are not certified teachers? And also the same thing with substitutes. You're not putting people who are educators in these positions who know how to handle this kind of thing. And as far as, I know it's 2 questions, but another statement, I've done United Way. I had 2 twin sisters, Hispanic, at Rogers Elementary School. They couldn't speak English. By the end of 1 year, the one sister was reading at a 2nd grade level out of a 2nd grade book, and that sister was teaching her other sister who was a slower learner. And that's what United Way can do. And please volunteer because they need help.
Thanks,
Thank you.
I'll answer. As it relates to coaches, it is a supplemental position. The head coach, if that person's going to be the head coach, it is recommended that they are a certified teacher and that they can work at the school. But it is not a requirement by Florida High School Athletic Association that the person be a certified teacher. I'm just answering the question. It is a supplemental position. It is not a full-time position with the school district. As it relates to substitutes, we have a 3-tiered method for substitutes. Any substitute is going to be long-term. They must have a certification. They have to be highly qualified. If it is just for a day-to-day person, that person can either have an AA degree or at the bare minimum, they must have a high school diploma. So that is the way those work. But we do follow all state statutes, and we do follow all the requirements for hiring of substitutes.
Can you comment quickly about what we've done around certificates in general?
Yes. Just added to the certificates, we've done a wholesale clean through our certificates. And we have a number of areas that we're going back to work with our teachers with the changes in laws. And so we believe that this time next year, everyone will have their certification completed. We have notified teachers. We've given everyone a year to get everything into place so that we are meeting all of the federal and state requirements.
Hi, my name's Mary Forrestal. I am a member. First off, I'd like to tell you thank you for coming into a position that you knew was going to be a firestorm, and it has certainly proven to be true. And you are turning it around, and we're grateful for that. My question has to do with, I think it was Dr. Green that talked about a program that you had to implement where you're delivering food during the summer months to certain communities. Did not know that was going on. I'm a board member on Meals on Wheels. Their new executive director, Mary Beth Phillips, is a wonderful woman. She's very open to working with other organizations. That's what we do. We have a huge food bank. We have a huge commercial kitchen. We deliver meals every day. I bet there could be some cooperation there that would perhaps save you money and support our focus. Okay?
No, wasn't a question, but it was a good point.
Hello there. My name is Cliff Curley. I am a member. First of all, Mr. Mills, thank you for your service to our country. Glad you're here. My question is multi-layered, but I think you're going to find out where I'm going. Can you update us on the status of the 3 individuals who are wrapped up in the Fraser case, number 1? Number 2, what is your recommendation going to be to the school board about their status and their continuing with Manatee High? And thirdly, when will those recommendations be made public?
Well, let me, I asked for a chronological order of events because I knew the questions would come out around this. I got here on March 20th, and within 2 weeks of being here, the Sarasota paper ran an article about potential charges being brought forward by the Bradenton police, and that eventually those names were released. During that time, while the state attorney was looking at and evaluating whether they would move forward with charges around that, we kept it as business as usual. I made a public statement last summer that I believe in our judicial system. I spent almost 25 years defending our Constitution and democracy and our judicial system. I believe in it, and we have to see how that plays out in certain circumstances and situations that obviously occurred. I also made a statement last summer that I asked the community and everybody in Manatee County and beyond that any situation with an employee of the school district that would be charged criminally, that they understand and appreciate the fact that we have a judicial system that people are innocent until proven guilty. And I firmly believe in that. And so once these individuals were charged, we opened up the investigation again that had been done previously. And we went through a very formal investigation. And when the investigation was completed at the district level, charges had been filed against these individuals for criminal felony and misdemeanor offenses. So we did our investigation. We have a very deliberate process in our policy of how disciplinary actions brought forward. That investigation was completed. It went to a discipline committee who reviewed it. had collaborative discussion around it, and brought forward recommendations to me, which I brought forward to the board last fall. Right now, it's my understanding that we still have 2 pending actions around the administrative hearing process on employment of 2 of the individuals that we have not heard back from. Obviously, everybody's aware of the fact from the media, et cetera, and the announcements that Mr. Gagnon was not recommended for termination, of which I immediately, within 2 days, dropped the termination process. And right now, we're in the process of restoring his back pay and looking at negotiating the payment we're obligated under statute for criminal defense. And so that's where we're at on that. We're still waiting for the outcome on the other 2 administrative hearings. I will say, as the superintendent, I'm mandated by law to act when situations occur, and I act in a way that I felt was responsible, that represented the best interest and safety and security of our students. And then I followed the due process to the law and to the statute and to our policies. And I feel strongly that I acted in a way that I had to act as the superintendent, with the highest priority being the safety and security of our students. So basically, we're awaiting the pending results of the administrative hearing for the other 2 individuals. I have already dropped the termination for Mr. Gagnon, and we'll be bringing forward to the board at the next board meeting the restoration of his back pay, and we're in the process of working out the criminal defense fees.
Okay. This is probably our last question.
Okay, this might be a little bit lighter in content. I
Okay.
wanted to
That's
let
good.
everyone know I got 3.5-year-old twins at home. I'm Reef Abdullah. I'm an architect over 20 years locally. I work with Folly Bryan Architects that are a member of the Tiger Bay Club. Most importantly, to my knowledge, 37% of our electricity costs come from building management and in the country. For example, you have a lot of money to be saved in changing things out to using green standards and different types of technologies in the schools. I'd be very interested to find out, we don't have construction services here present today, but what is the leadership's position on renovations of schools going forward and use of green technology, daylighting and such, to save the money so you can put that money into other programs for the students?
This is your question, Don. No, I'm kidding. Oh, I know you do. It's a good opportunity for me to kind of put a plug in. We are a county that's increasing our population pretty significantly. And when we look at the areas of population growth, we're seeing substantive growth in certain areas in the county that we need to get our hands around as a school district so that we know what our capital outlay needs are going to be the next 5 to 10 years around expanding existing campuses, building new schools, redistricting, boundary changes. We have to get our hands around that. So I will be bringing forward an RFP to the board for approval to bring in a third-party expertise of team members to fall in on our folks of experts so that we can do a countywide study on what our needs are going to be to meet our enrollment projections and increasing in population. I've already talked to all the builders in the county. Many of the builders are seeing where their development and growth is going to be. It's not going to be long until we outstrip the capacity of our schools in certain areas. So we got to get our hands around that, and we got to do it now. And so we're moving forward with that. I'll let Don answer the question around electricity and utility. He's got a lot to be proud of because we saved over $1 million this year in energy savings alone, which is more than double than we projected in our fiscal turnaround. And we've already started talking about LEED status of buildings that we build and how we're going to integrate that in. So anything you'd like to add, Don?
Well, there's not a whole lot to add.
Well, then we can finish.
Again, he's already mentioned the things that we've done this year, and we are now engaging a company that specializes in assisting school districts with looking at how you can maximize and find additional savings through behavior management, because there's only so much you can do with mechanical management. The next thing you have to do is start looking at operational behaviors. And so they'll be working with us, and we'll be bringing that proposal to the board in the next few weeks as at a board workshop. So we anticipate that even through that initiative, we can probably save another $1 million a year per year for the next 10 years as a part of this process. And so we are very compliant with that, and we definitely are on board with that. The other thing is, as we look at new buildings, and especially the renovations, we are looking at the opportunities where LEED certification can be put in, and how we can get to even a gold standard for new buildings. That's really important to us. And where we can't hit gold, then we at least want to be green. And so that's a part of our capital construction plans as well.
Okay, well, this has been a really interesting and informative meeting, and I appreciate all of you being here, and I'm glad to say you'll be exiting into the sunshine. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and join us next month when we'll be talking about the Village of the Arts. So, thank you all.